Looks like it's up. Is that correct, Mike?
Yes, it's
Okay,
up
great.
now.
All right. I will go ahead and start the webinar and then start the recording.
Okay.
The webinar has started. Like it's up. Is that? Good afternoon. The Delaware River Basin Commission will now convene its May 2024 public hearing. Thank you for joining us. I'm Kristen Bowman Kavanaugh, Deputy Executive Director of the DRBC, and I will serve as today's hearing officer. A notice for this hearing was posted on the DRBC website and in other media in April. This public hearing is being conducted remotely via a Zoom webinar. The hearing is also being broadcast on DRBC's YouTube channel, which accommodates viewing only. If you would like to offer comments on any of the hearing items, you will need to join the hearing via the Zoom registration link provided on the DRBC website. You can do this even after the hearing has begun. Once you register, you will be immediately provided with the Zoom webinar link to join this hearing in progress. So to reiterate, YouTube is not interactive and provides only an opportunity to view the hearing. You will be able to speak during the hearing only by joining via Zoom webinar. Registration will remain open throughout this hearing to accommodate late arrivals. The registration process is intended to establish security for today's public hearing, while also providing the public an opportunity for oral comment on the pending resolutions and dockets. Those wishing to offer public comment had until 5 p.m. yesterday to pre-register for the Zoom webinar as potential speakers. Once we hear from all those who pre-registered as commenters, we will allow additional Zoom attendees the opportunity to provide comments orally on any of the hearing items today as time permits. When the time comes to take public comment, we will provide microphone access one at a time to allow individuals to provide their comments and input. The public hearing is being recorded. In addition, the commissioners will be briefed on the activities held at this hearing, and they will have access to the recording as needed to inform their decision-making. I would like to start with introductions, beginning with our alternate commissioner from the state of New York.
Thanks, Kristen. Hi, I'm Ken Kaczynski. I'm an alternate commissioner from the state of New York, representing Governor Hochul.
Thank you. And our commission secretary and assistant counsel.
Hi, I'm Pam Bush. I'm the Commission's Assistant General Counsel and Commission Secretary.
Thank you. I will introduce our other presenters individually in a few moments. Additional DRBC staff are also on the Zoom webinar as attendees. During today's public hearing, oral comments are being accepted on each of a number of draft resolutions and dockets that may be considered by the DRBC commissioners for action at our June business meeting. Alternatively, or in addition, you may provide written comments on these hearing items. The public comment period for accepting written comments on the 5 draft resolutions and 34 draft dockets presented at today's public hearing will close on Monday, May 13th, 2024 at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. It is not necessary to submit both oral and written comments, as both are given equal consideration. However, you are welcome to do so. Please visit the DRBC website for information on how to submit written comments. Note that chats or online written communications made during today's hearing will not become part of the decision-making record. The next DRBC business meeting will take place at 10:30 a.m. on Wednesday, June 5th, 2024. At that meeting, the commissioners may take action on any items for which a public hearing has been completed, including any of the items subject to hearing today. They may also act on any matters that do not require a public hearing, including certain internal and administrative matters. The June 5th meeting will be held in person at the Tustin Theater in Narrowsburg, New York. The business meeting will also be streamed on YouTube. Immediately after the June 5th business meeting adjourns, and as time allows, the Commission will hold an open public comment session. This is an opportunity to address the commissioners on any matter relating to the basin's water resource management. Unlike comments offered during today's public hearing, comments made during the open public comment session on June 5th will not be included in any decision-making record of the Commission. To participate in open public comment on June 5th, we ask you to please register in advance by 5 p.m. on June 4th through the registration link on DRBC's website. In-person comments are encouraged and will be given priority. For those who register for open public comment and cannot attend in person, remote platform details will be provided at least 10 days prior to the meeting. Registration for open public comment does not guarantee an opportunity to speak during the 1-hour session due to time limitations, technology limitations, and other factors. When the commissioners convene at the June 5th business meeting, they will have several choices on how they want to handle the proposed draft resolutions and dockets. They may approve the resolutions and dockets as proposed. They may approve them with changes. They may issue a denial, or they may defer an action. When the commissioners defer an action, they also have options. They may announce an additional period for written comments on an item with or without an additional hearing date, or they may take additional time to consider the input they have already received without requesting further public input. Any deferred items will be considered for action at a public meeting of the commission on a future date. At today's public hearing, there are 5 draft resolutions and 34 proposed docket actions being considered, as noted on the agenda posted on the DRBC website. Links to the draft resolutions and dockets were also posted on the website, along with a brief description of each. After staff's presentation on each matter, I will open the floor to your comments. If you have signed up in advance, I will call your name first and allow you microphone access. If you have not signed up in advance and would like to speak, please try to familiarize yourself with the hand-raising feature in Zoom and raise your hand at such time as you desire to provide comment. I know there may be people on the phone as well. The command to raise your hand, if you are relying solely on a phone connection, is *9. Please introduce yourself and include your affiliation, if any. The time limit for those offering oral comments today will be approximately 3 minutes each. Today's hearing is limited to the items listed on today's hearing agenda. Any comments should relate to the items that have been listed in the Commission's detailed public notice on our website and scheduled for hearing today, and to issues that are relevant to the Commission's proposed action. For the record today, we have 24 attendees on our webinar and 9 who are viewing on our YouTube live stream. I will now ask DRBC Manager of Finance and Administration, Elba Deck, to present the first 2 draft resolutions, those being on the fiscal year 2025 budget and the second on apportionment amongst the signatory members. Elba?
Good afternoon. The first resolution is in regards to the Commission's annual current expense and capital budgets for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025. That would cover July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025. And in accordance with the Delaware River Basin Commission Compact, the public hearing, all materials are posted on the website, and the resolution is posted as well. The DRBC's its capital expense and capital budgets for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025. The current expense budget is approximately $8,079,000 for the fiscal year ending 2025 in the aggregate amount, and a capital budget, which is the Water Supply Storage Facilities Fund, reflecting revenues of approximately $3,900,000, with expenditures at $6,300,000, as set forth again in the documents dated June 5th that are posted on our website. In addition to the funds of $3,308,000 apportioned by the signatory parties that will be in the next resolution, we have additional revenue transfer in water supply of $3,100,000, transfer in special projects of $407,000, and other income of $1,252,000. To the extent that the revenue received during fiscal year 2025 under any federal or state grant in a program exceeds the revenue budget, any such excess is apportioned to additional programs or related to the original grant. The executive director will be given authorization and directed to transmit the budget principal officers of the respective signatory parties certified copies of the budget together with a certified statement of the amount hereby apportioned by each signatory party. Should signatory party revenue fall below the budget, the executive director is authorized and directed to reevaluate the annual work plan and, after consultation with and concurrence by the commission, to implement any and all actions that are deemed appropriate to maintain the fiscal stability of the general fund and accomplish the commission's work plan priorities.
Elba, I'm
Yes,
sorry to interrupt. We're having a few internet issues. Can you repeat your last sentence, please?
sure.
Thank you.
So, should the signatory parties' revenue fall below the budget, the executive director be authorized and directed to reevaluate the annual work plan and, after consultation with and concurrence by the commission, to implement any and all actions that are deemed appropriate to maintain financial stability of the general fund and accomplish the commissioner's work plan priorities. The executive director will notify the commissioners in writing of any signatory party revenue shortfall as soon as that information is made available. The commission will continue to operate the Pennsylvania Groundwater Protected Area Program in fiscal year 2025. The commission will receive $154,000 from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania to fully fund this activity. And this concludes the first resolution of the budgets.
Thank you. We do not have anyone signed up in advance to comment on the resolution, so kindly proceed to the next one.
Okay, the second resolution is the apportionment among the signatory parties of the amounts required to support the current expense and capital budgets for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025. Again, period July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025. Pursuant to the section 13.3 of the compact and subject to review and approval may be required by respective budgetary processes for the support of the budget for the fiscal year 2025. All requested contributions are expressly subject to the executive branch prerogatives of each member jurisdiction in formulating annual budgets. The resolution is not intended to be an endorsement of any appropriation request to the extent that it is inconsistent with such executive branch priorities on policy. For the state of Delaware, $447,000. For the state of New Jersey, $893,000. For the state of New York, $359,500. For Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, $893,000. And the federal government, $715,000. For a total signatory party contribution of $3,307,500. And that concludes this resolution as well.
Thank you. I do not have anyone signed up in advance to comment on that resolution either. However, I will pause for a moment. If anyone who is in attendance would like to comment on either of the two resolutions just presented by Elba Deck, whether or not you have signed up in advance, please raise your hand and I will allow you the opportunity to do so. The raise hand feature is in the button bar along the bottom of your Zoom webinar. If you are participating by phone, you can press *9, and I'll give you a moment to do that if you would like to comment. All right, I'm still not seeing anyone who would like to comment on those two resolutions, so we will go ahead and proceed. I will now ask DRBC Associate Counsel Kevin Pregent to present the third draft resolution on the Climate Resilience Plan.
Thank you, Kristen. This resolution, if approved by the commissioners, would, among other things, direct the commission staff to develop a climate resilience plan that would include elements related to planning, consultation, outreach, education, and rulemaking. The resolution recognizes the impacts of climate change.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Perhaps it's just on my end, but I'm having some sound difficulties. Could I ask you to start once again, please?
Sure. This resolution, if approved by the commissioners, would, among other things, direct the commission staff to develop a climate resilience plan that would include elements related to planning, consultation, outreach, education, and rulemaking. The resolution recognizes the impacts of climate change on the water cycle, weather extremes, and water infrastructure. It notes the Commission's prior recognition of the impacts of climate change on the water resources of the basin, and highlights various actions taken and climate plans developed by the Commission member states and the federal government. The resolution also highlights the Commission's commitment to the principles of diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice, and recognizes that overburdened and underrepresented communities may be disproportionately affected by the impacts of climate change on water resources. In light of the foregoing, the resolution finds that climate change has caused and will continue to produce impacts on the water cycle, water resources, and water infrastructure of the basin. It then directs the Commission to include in the Commission's annual water resources program at least one section dedicated to climate change and associated impacts, and Commission work plans to address such impacts. The resolution also directs the Executive Director to develop a climate resilience plan to include prioritized actions for evaluating the impacts of climate change on water resources of the basin and formulating management approaches for improving resilience and adaptation to a changing climate. The resolution contemplates that DRBC staff will consult with the commissioners, DRBC advisory committees, and explicitly the Advisory Committee on Climate Change and other stakeholders to identify and recommend these management approaches within the authority, jurisdiction, and expertise of the Commission. It states that these approaches may include, but are not necessarily limited to, items related to flow and drought management, flood loss, water quality, water use and water efficiency, water equity and environmental justice, and possible rulemaking activities. The resolution additionally directs the Commission to identify or develop metrics to measure the impacts of climate change and the performance of resilience and adaptation efforts to identify actions that agencies other than the Commission may more appropriately undertake to continue providing the basin community with science-based information and data about the relationship between climate change, the water cycle, and water resources of the basin, and the measures the Commission and other agencies are taking to mitigate or adapt to climate change impacts, and finally, to seek available funding to carry out the purposes of the resolution. And that concludes this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We do have 4 people who signed up in advance to provide comments on the resolution just presented. Let me name the 4 so you know what order you are in, and then we'll start from the top. First will be Tracy Carluccio, then Annika Van Rossum, then Doug O'Malley, and finally B. Arundel. So we will start with Tracy Carluccio. Tracy, you should be able to provide comment now.
Can you hear me, Kristen?
I can, thank you. And David's gonna run the timer in the background. Thank you.
Thank you. Delaware Riverkeeper Network makes these comments on the draft DRBC resolution Climate Resilience Plan. DRN supports the concepts in the plan and the rationale offered in support of the Commission's development of a climate plan to actively address climate impacts and threats in the basin. We emphasize that the development of rulemaking, as stated in the DRBC's opening description of the plan and the last whereas, is a key consideration. We strongly support that rulemaking is the priority outcome of this planning process. We are already seeing climate changes in the basin. These changes are transforming our watershed before our very eyes. Thus, we specifically support that the Commission require by regulation the consideration of the climate impacts of project applications, and we recognize that you have the authority to require the prevention of negative impacts. That's why we consider the primary purpose of such regulations be prevention, not only adaptation or resiliency that implicitly accepts the increasing damages of climate change as inevitable. Of utmost importance to us is that DRBC dockets for water allocations, wastewater discharges, river dredging, and other projects that entail additional greenhouse gas emissions should be considered for denial by DRBC due to salinity, groundwater depletion, water quality degradation, and other climate-linked impacts. This is how DRBC's plan can fully align with the climate plans and goals set by the states and the federal government to ensure that greenhouse gas reduction goals are being furthered by the decisions you make. For instance, President Biden has set a goal of reducing the nation's greenhouse gas emissions by 50 to 52% below 2005 levels by 2030. That's only 6 years from now. We have no time to waste. The plan must result in new climate impact-based rules. It can't just sit on a shelf when it's done. It needs to be implemented immediately as the climate crisis is an emergency. As stated in the last whereas in the proposed resolution. We emphasize the power and the duty that the Commission review projects that are not necessarily presented before them, but are advanced by other entities that may conflict with the comprehensive plan and cause harm and worsen climate impacts in the watershed. DRN is submitting written comment expanding on these verbal comments, addressing the scientific foundation for an action-based climate plan, and calling for robust public participation in the development of the plan, which we do not see cited in the draft resolution. Our written comments will include support for integrating climate considerations into existing DRBC rules to strengthen such things as floodplain rules, the FFMP flow planning, and the protection of our watershed's natural resiliency through ecosystem-based adaptation. Thank you very much for the opportunity to comment here today.
Thank you for your comments. Next on our list is Annika van Rossum. I do not see that she is in attendance at this time, but I will come back. Next up, we have Doug O'Malley. I do see that Doug is here. Doug, you should be able to provide your comments now.
Super. Can you hear me?
I can, thank you.
Excellent. My name is Doug O'Malley. I serve as director of Environment New Jersey. We represent more than 80,000 citizen members and activists across the Garden State. I wanted to first off just thank the DRBC and the process of moving from the Advisory Committee on Climate Change to this resolution. And this resolution is focused on climate resilience. But ultimately, that last section in the resolution on moving the DRBC towards rules, that is a reminder that you can't just have a plan. You need to have action behind that plan, right? So the climate resilience plan obviously references resilience. It references adaptation. It is imperative that the whereases in this resolution really mirror the science that members of the public have previously commented on. We need to ensure that the plan is moving not just towards adaptation, but is moving towards a process to ensure that rules are looking at climate impacts. And this is actually very similar to the work the Biden administration has done. Tracy just referenced the Biden administration's commitment to reduce climate pollutants by 50% over the course of this decade. That commitment is also met in New Jersey with Executive Order 247 from Governor Murphy and his administration to reduce emissions 50% this decade. So, when we think about the impacts, I think it's also important to understand for all of us, right, that we aren't just talking about something that's far off. Last year, 2023, was the warmest year, the hottest year on record. And then when we talk about flooding, which is obviously referenced in the resolution, that is critical. This isn't, flooding that is, kind of a sunny day flooding, right? We certainly see that at the shore. This is flooding that has killed people, and not that far from the DRBC headquarters, and specifically just across the river in Washington Crossing. The folks that lost their life on the road just south of Washington Crossing. That is a reminder of kind of what we're facing. And so kind of looking at what is in this resolution, there are many good things, obviously flood loss, the metrics. I also just want to emphasize the importance of the funding priorities. Clearly, funding to ensure this plan can be implemented is critical. But I do just want to come back to that section of regulations. I'll just read it into the record. Consider new or revised regulations under the compact to address significant climate related risks and vulnerabilities. That is where obviously this resolution will live or die. That is the most critical aspect. And I just want to kind of end here by re-emphasizing some of the testimony you've heard in past months from members of the public. And that's specifically that the DRBC needs to adopt rules that will require consideration of the climate impacts in the decision you ultimately make on dockets. So everything in this resolution ultimately needs to inform docket decisions. And some of those docket decisions are going to have negative climate impacts. And that can't just be considered an externality. It can't just be considered, someone else's job or not the job of the commission. What this resolution is stating that those impacts need to not only be considered, but they should be part of the rules, right? So I am very And I'll just wrap up here. You know, we're obviously very heartened by this resolution. It needs to have further action to ensure that rules are not just kind of lost in the sauce. We need to ensure the resolution is leading to a change in the DACA process. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. All right. Our fourth speaker on the list is B. Arundel. You should now have access to be able to provide your comments.
You can hear me?
I can, thank you.
Is this good?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay. B. Arundel, here from Damascus Citizens for Sustainability, a climate and frac ban coalition member. And I'm making a comment on the draft climate resilience plan. It's very important and very good that the draft resolution on the climate resilience plan includes using the Advisory Committee on Climate Change to consult on water resources and the climate resilience plan. This consulting should include all dockets and meetings should be frequent. The idea that this plan seek preventive actions, not only resilience and adaptation or compensating for damages projects will cause, and the Advisory Committee on Climate Change with its very knowledgeable experts should be very helpful. The fact that in Pennsylvania and some places in New York, there is an epidemic of toxic radioactive waste being dumped on roads in areas where either there is drilling occurring or drillers or other companies feel they can get away with this despicable poisonous practice means these areas will be lacking in clean water. Yes, mostly outside of the Delaware Basin, but some may be also in the Delaware Basin. Who is minding the store? Where are the enforcers of laws that are supposed to be protecting the population, both human and otherwise? Elected officials are holding office obligated to protect the health and welfare of those in the municipalities they govern, not to turn their municipalities into disposal facilities, as on this likely incomplete list from PADEP that I will submit of close to 100 municipalities with 245 named places within those municipalities where dumping of liquid oil and gas drilling waste, I refuse to call it brine, on roads is happening. And the PADEP actually lists the municipalities themselves as disposal facilities in their official waste listings. These places will look soon for clean water and maybe to the Delaware Basin for it. And very importantly, if the DRBC plans on only using state resources for enforcement, then you are expecting PADEP to enforce your block on liquid oil and gas drilling waste being brought into the DRB and dumped on roads. And this is the very agency that has totally caved to the oil and gas industry and declared this toxic radioactive waste as a, quote, beneficial co-product, unquote, and the places where people live as, quote, disposal facilities, unquote. Then you will be very disappointed in the enforcing of your rules. DRBC must have its own ability to enforce if there is to be enforcing happening. How to enforce must be part of your rulemaking. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. We had one other person who had signed up to comment on this resolution, Annika von Rossum, but I'm still not seeing her in attendance. But if there is anyone else who is attending, whether or not you have signed up in advance, if you would like to provide comments on the resolution just presented, I will give a few moments for you to find the raise hand button. It should be across the bottom of your screen. Okay, I'm not seeing anyone else who would like to comment on the resolution just presented. So I will now ask our DRBC Manager of Water Resource Planning, Chad Pindar, to present the fourth and fifth draft resolutions those being on the fiscal year 2025 to 2027 Water Resources Program, and the other on the establishment of a subcommittee on source water protection.
Good afternoon. The first resolution I have for you today is for the fiscal year 25 to 27 Water Resources Program. Section 13.2 of the Delaware River Basin Compact requires the Commission to annually adopt a water resources program. That program should be based upon our comprehensive plan and consist of the projects and facilities which the Commission proposes to be undertaken within the ensuing 6 years or other reasonably foreseeable period. This water resources program was developed by DRBC staff in consultation with our commissioners and identifies the projects, activities, programs, etc., to be undertaken over the next 3 fiscal years. The water resources program is presented in 2 parts. Part 1 is a statement of conditions within the basin, and it summarizes the water resources in terms of hydrologic conditions, water use and sufficiency, overall assessment of water quality, landscape conditions, and emergent issues that may affect the long-range water resource planning and management of the basin. The second part consists of the work resource management program. And this is where the Commission initiatives are proposed over the next 3 years. I want to end by saying that this water resource program helped guide the development of the Commission's current expense and capital budgets for fiscal year 2025. And that concludes this resolution.
Thank you. We do not have anyone who signed up in advance to provide comments on that resolution, so please go to the next one.
Okay. The second resolution is for the establishment of a subcommittee of the Delaware River Basin's Water Management Advisory Committee focused on source water protection. The water resources of the Delaware River Basin provide a public supply of water, including drinking water, for over 8 million people in 4 different states. This is done by the withdrawal and treatment of over 800 million gallons per day for public water supply. Drinking water utilities, government agencies, and water users throughout the basin have a common interest in protecting source water quality. The source waters of the Delaware River Basin face potential threats that include but are not limited to spills and releases of hazardous materials, salinity from road salts and sea level rise, emerging contaminants, unregulated contaminants, non-point source pollution, harmful algal blooms, and other items. This resolution, if approved, would direct the executive director to convene a subcommittee that would report to the Water Management Advisory Committee. It would also provide a staff liaison to assist the Subcommittee on Source Water Protection chair in scheduling meetings, developing and distributing agendas, and preparing meeting summaries and recommendations to the Water Management Advisory Committee. The objectives of this subcommittee are to provide a regional forum for knowledge sharing and dialogue, to establish and maintain regular dialogue among public drinking water suppliers and government agencies, to coordinate with and support the Delaware Valley Early Warning System, and to advance to the executive director and to the Water Management Advisory Committee any recommendations that could require commission action. I will note that unless renewed, the resolution calls for the subcommittee to expire 3 years from the effective date of this proposed resolution. Before the end of the 3-year term, the subcommittee would make a recommendation to Water Management Advisory Committee and to the Commission regarding a path forward for that subcommittee. And that concludes the summary of this resolution.
Thank you, Chad. I also do not have anyone who signed up in advance to provide comment on that resolution. However, if there are any individuals who are in attendance who would like to comment on either of these 2 resolutions, please use the hand raise feature in Zoom. I don't see anyone on the phone, but if you're on the phone and you want to comment, you can press *9 and I'll pause for a moment to see if anyone would like to comment. I see no one who would like to comment on those dockets. Thank you. I will now ask DRBC Manager of Project Review, David Kovac, to present the draft dockets for today's consideration.
Thanks, Kristen. Let me share my screen. On the slide before you are 34 duly noticed draft project dockets that project review staff have prepared for public comment at today's hearing. On the slide, there are 34 projects. 33 of them are located in Pennsylvania, and one of them is located in New York. Of the 34 projects, 22 are wastewater discharges. Those are denoted in black on the slide, and 12 are water withdrawals, denoted in blue. And I'll go through the dockets in two groups, starting with the project renewals. And this group of 28 draft dockets includes renewals of approvals for water withdrawal and wastewater discharge projects that have not changed substantially from when they were last approved by the commission. A noteworthy point I wish to make regarding agenda item 19, that is the Slatington Borough discharge docket. The draft docket finding section has been modified to acknowledge the 4 municipal stormwater ordinances being implemented in the project area served that meet the non-point source pollution control plan requirements of the DRBC. And that modified draft with the changes tracked is available to view on the DRBC's website. At this point, I request that we take public comment on draft dockets 1 through 28 on the slide before you.
Thank you, David. We have one person who signed up to comment on docket number 19, although there was a question about whether they intended to comment. It is Audrey Wood. I do see Audrey in attendance. Audrey, if you would like to comment, can you raise your hand? The raise hand feature is on the bottom, or I can open, oh, there you go. Okay, great. So Audrey, you should be able to provide comments now.
Good afternoon, Audrey at Cowan Associates. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Wonderful. So Cowan Associates is the engineer that prepared this most recent renewal on behalf of Slatington Borough and Slatington Borough Authority. So the one question that we did still have, and more of a clarification, is also in reference to, as David had referenced just previously, that Part B, Section 1, Paragraph 4 regarding the NPSPC plan. So our question is, would DRBC approval be required if an existing facility located outside those 4 municipalities that are now listed and identified separately in that section? So if an existing facility outside of those municipalities simply want to connect to the sewer system without any corresponding development, that would trigger stormwater or non-point source control issues. So again, that clarification on if all of Lehigh and Northampton County is approved or adequate as according to DRBC regulation, or if only these 4 municipalities within the existing service area.
Thank you for your question, Audrey. Our practice is to accept comments at the public hearings, but not to engage in questions and answers. However, we can certainly follow up with you with regards to DRBC process and our rules and regulations.
Thank you.
Have any other comments?
That is all.
Thank you very much. Okay, David, we had no one else who signed up to comment on any of the dockets 1 through 28. I will pause to see if there's anyone who did not sign up in advance who would like to comment. Again, the raise hand feature is in the bottom of your screen, or *9 if you are participating via telephone. I'm not seeing anyone else who would like to comment on the first 28 dockets, so you're welcome to proceed, David.
Okay, thank you. So moving on to the next group of dockets, those are the renewals with substantive changes and new projects. And there are 5 renewals with substantial changes and 1 new project in this group. And I'll describe each project briefly. The first is Broadhead Creek Regional Authority in Stroudsburg Borough, Monroe County, Pennsylvania. This is to renew the approval of the existing 4.5 million gallon per day BCRA wastewater treatment plant, its discharge. The docket includes expansion of the area served to include certain additional areas within Pocono Township and Stroud Township. BCR wastewater treatment plant will continue to discharge to McMichael Creek at the river mile indicated on the slide within the drainage area to the Middle Delaware Special Protection Waters. The next project in this list is Pennsylvania American Waters Royersford Lock 57 water treatment plant in East Vincent Township, Chester County, Pennsylvania. It's a renewal of a surface water withdrawal with an increase in total system allocation from 5 million gallons per day to 6.6 million gallons per day from an existing surface water intake on the Schuylkill River. And this is for public water supply. The approval will also include construction of the Lock 57 water treatment plant and a new intake at the facility to replace the docket holder's Shady Lane water treatment plant and the intake there. The increase in allocation is due to expected future growth in the township. The next project is Tamaqua Borough Authority in Walker Township, Schuylkill County, PA. It's an application to approve the applicant's wastewater treatment plant and its proposed construction improvements. The project includes the construction of a new headworks building and system, replacement of primary and secondary mechanisms, replacement of water, return, and waste sludge pumps, a new disinfection system, new aeration blowers and diffusers, conversion of 2 aeration tanks to flow equalization tanks, and other associated upgrades. The wastewater treatment plant will continue to discharge up to 2.6 million gallons a day of treated effluent to the Little Schuylkill River at the river miles indicated on the slide. The next project is Blue Triton Brands, Inc. in Washington Township, Northampton County, PA. This is approval of a new borehole B3 to be used in conjunction with the existing boreholes B1 and B2 for use at the docket holder's bottled water facility. The total maximum combined pumping rate and allocation will remain at the previously approved rates of 439 gallons per minute and 17.05 million gallons per month, respectively. Boreholes B1 and B3 are completed in glacial outwash valley fill, and borehole B2 is completed in weathered Martinsburg Formation bedrock. The project is located in the Waltz Creek watershed in the drainage area to Lower Delaware Special Protection Waters. Oh, one noteworthy thing about that, we did receive comments from Martin's Jacoby Creek Watershed Association on this project. Those comments were largely procedural in nature, which staff have answered to some degree, but that we will address more formally in a comment response document. Move on to the next project. That's Northampton County Municipal Authority, Northampton Bucks County Municipal Authority, sorry, in Northampton Township, Bucks County, PA. This is renewal of a groundwater withdrawal with an increase in total system allocation from 68.2 million gallons per month to 86.692 million gallons per month from 15 existing wells. It's for public water supply. The increase in allocation is due to expected future growth in the township. Project wells are completed in the Stockton Formation, and the project is located in the Chamonix Creek and Ironworks Creek watersheds. Now, the new project on the list, item 34, is Avondale Borough, and we say new, but this is an existing withdrawal of groundwater for public water supply. It's just new to the commission. And so the docket approves an existing groundwater withdrawal of up to 6 million gallons per month from existing wells Southwell 1, Northwell 2, PW1, and PW2 for public water supply. The project wells are completed in the Cockeysville Marble Formation in the White Clay Creek watershed, and the project will be included in the Commission's comprehensive plan upon approval of the docket. And that's all the projects I have. I would ask that we take any public comment on projects 29 through 34.
Thank you, David. We do have 2 people who signed up in advance to comment both actually on docket number 29, which is the Broadhead Creek Regional Authority docket. Those two names are Brian Franey and David Horton. I do see them here, so let's see. Brian, you should be able to provide comments now.
Hi, Kristen. Given that it's only myself and Dave Horton signed up, I will like to reserve my time in case there are any other public comments.
All right, thank you very much. All right, I will now look to David Horton. David, you should be able to provide comments now.
Thank you, Kristen. I fall into the same category as Brian. I'll reserve my comments.
Thank you very much. Okay, I have no one else who signed up in advance to provide comments on docket numbers 29 through 34. However, at this time, I will provide any attendees to raise their hand and provide comments on either dockets 29 through 34 or any of the dockets number 1 through 34. I do see one hand raised, B. Arendelle. You should be able to speak now and provide comments, and please indicate which docket you are providing comments on.
Yes, number 32, where it's an expansion of withdrawals of water. I'm just wondering, does DRBC look at the impacts of lowering aquifer levels in the area when you increase the ability of a permitting or a requester to raise their ability to withdraw water, especially for a bottled water facility, because over and over again we see that bottled water is not good. It's not good for the area where the water is taken from. It's not good for the water drinkers besides. But so my question is, does the DRBC look at the impacts in the surrounding aquifer users? Thank you.
I can briefly answer that, Kristen, just to
Okay.
clarify something that, yeah, this is another well for redundancy. And so it's not an increase to what they currently have been approved to do. But at the same time, the well was tested through aquifer testing to look at what the impacts would be to the local hydrogeologic system. So yes, that's all part of our review.
Thank you, David.
Thank you. I appreciate the information.
No problem, anytime.
Okay, is there anyone else who would like to provide comments on any of the dockets presented by David, or for that matter, any of the resolutions presented today as well? I will pause to see if anyone raises their hand. Again, bottom button bar for the raise hand option, or *9 if you are participating via telephone. I see no one else who wants to comment. Thank you, David. And as a reminder, if anyone wishes to submit written comments on any of the 5 draft resolutions or the 34 dockets presented today, please send them through our online system before 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Monday, May 13th, 2024. That completes the presentation of the items scheduled for hearing today. Thank you for attending the DRBC's May 2024 public hearing. Our next business meeting is on June 5th, and I'm going to share a slide with some QR codes. We do invite you to visit our website for more information about upcoming meetings and events. And to sign up to receive meeting notices and other updates, you can use the QR code once I pull it up. The public hearing is now closed. I wish you a belated Happy Earth Day and thank you for your participation. I'll keep this up for about 30 seconds before I close the Zoom webinar. or maybe not quite 30 seconds because that feels like a really long time. But hopefully if you wanted to capture that QR code, you have. If not, please visit our website. Thank you for attending today.